Hello and welcome back to the One Decision Away podcast. I'm your host, Elijah Mang, and today we are going to get into how to make the best decisions you possibly can without feeling guilt, worry, doubt, um, and maintaining the most integrity that you possibly can. So, to get into this, I have five different focuses for this episode that we're going to go over, and five different ways that you can go about making the best decisions that you possibly can. And to start it off with number one is, what are your motivations? What are your motivations? And I'm talking your core, the deep motivations within you that may or may not be um, selfish or um, typically perceived as negative or a bad thing. And it's important to address these things. It's important to know what your motivations are, your core, deepest motivations, the raw motivations within you. Because if you don't know these things, then you are powerless to changing what's driving you. And so that's what I mean when I say, what are your motivations, is what's driving you at the core. And so when you're not aware, you are kind of just making decisions. You're just going about your life without awareness of what is really driving you at the core. And so even if there are certain motivations that are very selfish that are driving you, that's okay. You just become aware of them. Don't judge them. And so I strongly recommend a regular practice like meditation, um, to become more and more aware of these things, as well as journaling. Meditation and journaling are huge and very helpful in helping you to really dial in on what are your core motivations that are driving you in your day-to-day life and in your decision making, because you can really silence your mind, or if your mind isn't going silent, just become aware of what's actually going on in your mind, because so often we're operating in a state where we are not being aware. Like, we are operating out of the program. We're living out the program. We're living out the patterns of our mind, of our thought processes, and we're not operating from a place of awareness of those processes. And so it's important to, if you don't do this already, like, it's crucial, create a meditation practice or silence or stillness practice for preferably every day, um, where you can start to become more and more aware, just sitting in silence, not acting out the programs and the patterns of your mind, but sitting in silence and observing them. And that'll help you to become more and more aware of your core motivations. And then journaling, because obviously it helps you to clarify things. It helps you to break down certain thought processes and put it all on paper and just like organize your mind, organize your thoughts. Journaling has been an absolute life changer for me over the past few years. Uh, so I highly recommend journaling as well, because you can sort it all out. You can figure out, like, oh, dang, you can recognize certain things that you didn't notice before. So you may become aware of them in meditation and then write about them, journal on them, become more clear on what they are. And when you find out what your core motivations are, then you can have some insight into just why you operate the way you do, and also how you can change the way that you're operating, the way that you're making decisions, and all of the above. So number two, this is one of my favorites. Um, where it's so simple, so simple. That's why it's one of my favorites, and it's so powerful. Where are you coming from? Are you coming, like, in your decision making, are you coming from a place of fear or love? It's so simple, but you just have to reflect. You just have to reflect. Like, when you are faced with a decision, and you feel strongly one way, and you feel, like you have an idea of another way to act on it, just notice how you feel, and you will be able to dial in on where are you coming from, because where you're coming from is what's going to create the create or bring the power into your decision, or the lack of power. It's power when you're coming from love. When you're coming from love, it's not just what's the best decision, like your mind trying to figure it out. When you're coming from love, you're connected to your divine inherent intelligence, universal intelligence, and what you know to be true, because the fact of the matter is that our heart knows a lot more than our mind does. Our mind thinks, our heart knows. And so if this is something that resonates with you, decision making, learn how to bring more of that heart into your day-to-day decision making, because decisions made from fear will breed results and outcomes that align with the place that you were coming from when you made the decision. And same with decisions made out of love. If that is carried forward into the decision, it will also continue to be carried out in the outcome, in the results that are produced from the decision. And so this is one of the biggest, just it's so simple, but it's one of the biggest questions to ask yourself on a regular basis. Where am I coming from? Fear or love? So if you're making a decision and the thoughts about that decision are coming from a place of doubt, of fear, of I don't want this to happen, so I'm going to act in this way. Either you need to change the decision, or you need to change where you're coming from in regards to the decision. Instead of focusing on I don't want this to happen, so I'm going to act this way, focus on I would love if this happens, or whatever. Just make the switch, flip it, just flip it upside down, and you'll be able to come up with whatever the opposite feeling is, a decision that feels more loving and empowering, and you're acting for the love rather than avoidance of feeling a certain feeling. And so you're not acting out of fear. And number 3 is allow yourself to be guided by your feeling and your intuition. Now, this kind of goes along with the letting yourself come from a place of love when you're making your decisions, but allow yourself to be guided by your feeling and your intuition, because it's truly a powerful thing. It's a powerful gift that we all have, and it allows us to navigate our life in the way that is the best possible way for us. I can't tell you straight up, this is the best decision to make, this is the best decision to make, or, you know, whatever that may be. Fill in the blank on the context of that. I can't tell you that. Only you know the best decisions to make. And if you're not tuned into your inner feelings and intuition very much, then it's going to be hard to decide what the best decisions for you to make are. If you're operating from purely a logical standpoint on decisions, you're not always going to make the best decisions, because logic is only a part of the pie. It's not the whole thing. And so connecting with the intuition, and that goes back to that trusting in your heart, trusting in love. When you're coming from a place of love, when you feel the love about a decision, and when you feel good about a decision, then chances are, it's going to go well. Now, I'm sure I've experienced so many of these. I'm sure you've experienced times where you just feel a certain feeling, like you just know that it's probably not the decision to make, but you go ahead and do it anyway. Or you get like a strong feeling that something's going to happen, and you ignore it, and then it happens. That is intuition. That is what I mean by trusting your feelings. trusting that intuition. And so often, like I mentioned this in, I believe, my last episode, um, how to stop letting emotions get in your way or something like that. Emotions are often such an overlooked part of life, especially when it comes to business and the whole entrepreneurship world, the business world. A lot of people are purely operating out of what seems to be logical, and it's valid to a certain extent. Now, you can't ignore the feelings and the intuition. And so, decide when you make your decisions, decide when you feel a sense of inner peace, and decide when you feel good about it. Act when you feel good about it. This goes for both acting, taking action, whatever that looks like, and making important decisions. Do it when you feel good about it. Do it when you feel good within yourself, and do it when you feel a sense of peace, internal peace within yourself, because that's where the best decisions and actions will be made. Um, Now, number 4, excitement. Let your heart guide you and trust in the feelings. It goes back to the feelings, but it's a little bit of a different spin on this one, or for this one, for number 4, which is excitement. So trust in your excitement. Allow your excitement to guide you. Allow just what naturally sparks your light, your excitement, your passion, and follow that. It really just comes down to trust. You have to trust in those inner feelings. You have to trust in yourself. Because if you're not making decisions from a place of self trust, if you're not making decisions from a place of excitement, specifically this one, if you're not making decisions from a place of excitement, then the outcome of those decisions is not going to be very exciting. So trust in those feelings, trust in your passions, trust in your excitement, because ultimately, you don't want to create a life, you don't want to create outcomes in your life that you're not excited about, that you're not passionate about, that you don't really care for that much. Um, Maybe just because it'll bring you a certain result, but you're not actually excited about it. And so, because like if you're making decisions from that place, like I said, if you're making decisions from that place and you're not excited about it at all, then the outcome is not going to be exciting. And so it goes back to point number 1. What are your motivations? If you are deeply motivated by status, by money, we'll use those two as examples. If you're deeply motivated by status and by money, you may end up making a lot of decisions that are not exciting for you, that are not actually helping you create the life that you genuinely want to live, but they will get you money and they will get you more status or glamour or whatever in the eyes of society, in the eyes of those around you. And if you're going to continually be in conflict in your decision making, if you don't identify that motivation and realize, oh, I'm not happy with the results that I'm getting because this stuff doesn't actually fulfill me, but it's at the core of 90% of the decisions that I'm making. And so it's so important to connect, go within, find those motivations. And then also let when you do that, when you go deeper within yourself, when you connect to yourself and create a better relationship with yourself mentally, how you think about yourself, how you see yourself, how you feel about yourself emotionally, self-love, appreciation, valuing, honoring, and respecting yourself, then all of these things will come naturally. They will. The connection with your feelings and your intuition, um, and knowing how to actually allow your heart to guide you in your decision making, and trusting that you are exactly where you need to be, and that there is a greater intelligence that flows through you and is within you that can help you to make the greatest possible decisions that you can make. So trusting in that. Like I said earlier, the mind is logical. The heart is connected to that universal intelligence that's beyond you. The mind is limited by our ego, by the restrictions of the ego and of what seems logical, which logic is not always the answer when making decisions, because the outcomes of our decisions, often what we want in the outcomes of our decisions is an emotion. And so there's a disconnect there between the logic. If logic is determining every which way you're going in your life, then chances are on the other end, the output, the emotional output, is not going to be very fulfilling. That's the straight up truth about it. So, number 5, make decisions based on whether or not it aligns with your values, your purpose, your principles that you stand on with your life. What are those core principles that are the most important things to you? Don't act and make decisions outside of your values and principles. Because when you are living your life, that's how you give away your power. That's how you give away your power and your self-respect. But when you're living your life from a foundation of strong principles and values, and you live your life in a way that aligns with that, you maintain the greatest power, amount, level of power that you possibly can, and the greatest feeling of power within yourself, and the greatest positive influence over the results that you create through your actions and your decisions. So integrity, maintaining integrity within that. And through all 4 of the other steps or ways to make powerful decisions that I mentioned, it all leads to this. And all of it connects. All of this connects, as you've probably been able to piece together during this video, during this episode. It all connects. And it comes down to maintaining integrity with those core motivations, your values, your principles, and your internal guidance system of emotions, coming from a place of love, of peace, of trust, trusting in your intuition, all of it. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was helpful. This is how you can truly make the most powerful decisions that you can possibly make in your life that lead to the greatest outcomes, the perfect outcomes for you, and the greatest levels of peace, joy, fulfillment that you can possibly experience in your life. You have to, it takes some deep internal work sometimes. And that's a great thing, because that is the work that leads you to the greatest levels of peace, happiness, fulfillment, connection, love, and the greatest relationships, both with yourself and with the people who are most important to you. And so reflect on this, drop a comment, share your thoughts below, hit like on this video as well, and subscribe if you're not subscribed already, or, if you're on Spotify, follow. And I greatly appreciate you. Please share your thoughts and consider leaving a review as well. If you're on Spotify or Apple, leave a review. It helps the podcast grow. And stay tuned in for the next one. I appreciate you. Peace.